Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Skiing is one of those things that's best to learn as a kid, but you can't force them into it. It has to be something they're eager about and genuinely enjoy. Well done, OP. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Now your kid hates skiing. I hope you're happy. So this happened during the Christmas rush at an unnamed ski resort. I was in charge of a group of the youngest kids, 4 and 5. This group in particular was just barely able to go up the chairlift. This was exciting as it meant I could take them away from the crowds of adults who were learning to ski and get them to some more space with harder terrain. Everyone was really excited except for one kid. We'll call him Blue for his jacket. Blue seemed apprehensive and quiet. Whatever, some kids are. I run them through the checks, get the supervisor, go ahead and take them up the lift. Blue goes face down in the snow, won't get up. I scoop him up and start to get them going down the hill. Blue panics, refuses to let go of my leg, so I basically carry him for 2 runs before cutting my losses and taking everyone in. I can't teach the rest of the kids if I have to give all my attention to Blue. Enter Dad. Dad says he saw me carrying Blue down and doesn't understand why I'm not giving him a chance. Dad takes Blue on the chair all the time. He bitches to my supervisor until I get called over. I gently explain that while your 4-year-old is physically capable of doing this, he's emotionally unable to do something that scary without his father. Dad says, "Yeah, well, I paid for him to go up there, so you need to take him up again." Yeah, whatever, we'll see how that goes. So I request backup from my supervisor, who sends me up with another instructor, and up we go. We're not even halfway down before Blue is in tears again, hysterical. Can't even see to ski. I take him down, right past Dad. We have the following exchange. D: "What's wrong with him? Why isn't he skiing?" Me: "Well, sir, your son is clearly not in a state to ski. I have to take him inside until he calms down." D: "Give him to me, I'll fix him up." Me: "I'm sorry, sir, that's against company policy. Liability reasons, I'm sure you understand. If you want to pick him up, you'll have to go inside and speak to my boss." Killed an hour of the dude's time picking up his kid, and I don't think either skied for the rest of the day. Maybe next time you'll listen when a professional tells you what your kid is ready for. I guess with fathers like that, it's no wonder we're surrounded by so many Karens here. You're just doing your job normally, LOL. Now, to do malicious compliance on a snowy mountain, you don't need to throw anyone down the slope or sharpen their skis. You just need to do your job right. And our second story. Asked for super spicy wings. In the time before time, when I was in college, a buddy of mine and I used to go to a buffalo chicken wings night every Monday at the local joint. In New York, so the wings were legit, except extremely hot level was never really that spicy, just a bunch of Tabasco. One day, we were really jonesing for hot. We'd physically seen the cook in prior visits, big burly don't screw with me type of person. I told the waiter to write down our directions to the cook. We said, "Table 8 says you cannot make these wings spicy enough for them because you like small boys and are not enough of a man to make them hot." He first refused to write that down. We slipped him a $10 bill, big money back then, and said, "Just blame us." A picture of crap beer and a dozen wings for each came out. They smelled spicy, so we were stoked. Had one bit of one wing, immediately chugged our 16-ounce beer because, OMG, how did he make them this spicy on a whim? We each ate the remainder of the very first wing. That pitcher of beer was annihilated. We hadn't noticed, but the cook was sticking his head out the door watching us. At this point, he's crying from laughing so hard, comes over and says he'll make us a fresh order. Those were the ones sitting at the very bottom of the prep bucket for hours, had been soaking in the chili peppers, etc., and they never served them as a rule. We told him that wasn't right. We demanded hyper spicy. He delivered. It was our responsibility to finish them with a smile. We immediately called 2 friends, told them in 2 hours we'd need to be picked up because we'd be hammered, and they had to come drive us and my car home. They were baffled as it was a Monday night, but agreed. Took 2 full hours and 3 pitchers of beer each, but we finished them. We stayed as quiet as we could given how much pain we were in. Thankfully, the restaurant was always less than 50% full. The cook came out to give us high fives and asked, "I'm betting you won't ask for ultra spicy again, right?" "No, sir, we will not. You've beaten us and we acknowledge your superiority." We left a monster tip and our sober friends drove us home, made both of us sit in the back seat of my car as they didn't want to risk anyone throwing up in their car or on one of them as the driver. Epilogue. 12 buffalo wings didn't just burn on the way down. Thankfully, we lived with only college students who heard, "Oh my God, please kill me now," from the bathroom for 48 hours after that. Best wings ever. This story reminds me of my grandfather. I hope they made friends with the chef after that. When my grandfather made hot sauce, he was the only one who could eat it properly, and he always said that a good sauce is spicy on both sides. And our last story. Reported a former employer to the relevant ombudsman. I work IT in a particular sector. A new top boss came in. They forced my immediate boss into leaving through ill health. They basically gave him a heart attack. He warned me on the way out that he wouldn't be able to shield me from their nonsense anymore. I took the hint and defended myself. They paid someone from outside the company, but who does the same job as me? A fortune to come in and audit my work. The audit was never released in full because it was embarrassing for them, except for a summary page. The summary page was basically a short list of items like someone should really write a policy about X. Policy writing was not in my remit. That had been my boss's job. Everything else was petty and tiny because they couldn't actually pen anything on me at all. Oh, P.S., the guy who did the audit hated me but still couldn't lie. Well done, that man. I didn't like you either, but you were honest. I was given that audit summary as a list of action items to resolve within 6 months or be sacked. They were all resolved by the next day. They agreed they were all resolved that day. Job safe. At the same time, I happened to find out what the audit recommendations for themselves had been. My boss was smarter than they ever were. Their own audit told them things like, "This guy's department is overworked, underpaid, doesn't take all the holiday he's owed, doesn't have the budget he needs, does much more than he needs to, saves us a ton of money, doesn't have the support from management, has too many obstacles, not enough people understand what he does. He's burdened with stuff that isn't his job, etc., etc., and had a massive list of things that they needed to do to solve them. I made it quite clear that given their ultimatum to me, I expected them to follow through with their own audit's recommendations in those regards in the same time scale, or I would walk. They agreed. One of their line items was literally, decide who should be on a committee. That's it. Just pick a short list of names from the only few other staff who could ever possibly be on that committee anyway. Guess what? 6 months later, nothing. Not one done. Not even a preliminary list of X should be on this committee. Nothing. I walked as promised. They argued and threatened me with all sorts, so I went to a meeting that same day. In that meeting, they had some random guy who worked at the company bring in his laptop and demonstrate how it didn't work. I asked if they'd reported the problem. They claimed they'd stopped me in the corridor months before and it hadn't been working all that time. But no, they hadn't bothered to write a note, an email, a letter, a complaint, a help desk ticket, nothing. I spotted the meeting for what it was, a poor attempt at an ambush. And so I sprung my trap. So you failed to follow the established procedure, failed to report this concern properly, haven't been doing any work yourself because this doesn't work, and you singularly failed to report that before now? And I don't understand why you're here, and pretty much I think that it's not wise for you to be here in what should be a private meeting, as you're not my line manager, but I'm glad you're here to witness. By the way, I quit. Big boss, you can't quit. You have to serve out your notice. Okay, and how long's my notice? 2 months. Okay, and how much holiday did your own audit say I was owed from all the holiday I had to carry over because you wouldn't let me take it? I don't know. I'll save you the trouble. Before I came in here, I had to pass the HR department anyway, and your own HR people just supplied me with my records. 8 weeks, which is, gosh, is that 2 months? But, bye, I'm done. And by the way, all you had to do was give just a few tiny nods in my direction and you wouldn't be here. Or give me half the money you'd spent on that audit. I did just that. I walked. They had no leg to stand on. I know that when I'd gone, they tried to blame everything on everyone they could. Even HR came under fire for doing their job. But equally, I knew a lot of what went on at that place and where they were telling fibs about exactly how money was being spent. So I reported them to the ombudsman of their industry. Within a week, they had independent auditors and inspectors crawling all over their records. The big boss was sacked outright. The entire organization was ripped a new one. Something like 80 to 90% of the staff changed that year, including everyone at the senior levels, because of the uproar caused. My former boss got me a new job at another place by word of mouth. He also managed to hire the HR people for himself at his new job, plus several of the former staff, the good ones as he described it to me. The big boss never worked in that industry again. I don't think. The entire place was taken over by all new people within weeks. I don't recognize anyone who works there now, just a few years later. Nothing remained of the old staff except at the very lowest levels. One of the senior team was still there, but took a massive voluntary demotion just before it all started up. They were one of the good ones and saw where things were heading when they started picking on me and wanted no part of it, so they took a massive pay cut to keep far away from it all. I also know, as one of the contractors who worked closely with IT there happened to work at my new workplace too, that they basically had to start all over again, IT-wise, as the guy they hired to replace me didn't understand one thing about IT or the systems I'd left, fully documented, in place. And there was nobody competent to manage him or understand what he could or couldn't do. They spent £50,000 just to get things working again because they didn't have anyone who knew how it worked or could even read the instruction manuals. To this day, many years later, they still aren't back where they were, IT-wise. I'm still in the new job, and my personnel file is still a copy of that audit summary, and I started on 1.5 times what they were paying me at the old place. I don't know why, but it reminded me. The boss, frustrated with his computer, calls over the IT guy and says, "My computer's acting up. It won't access any websites." The IT guy checks the computer and says, "Looks like your computer isn't connected to the internet." The boss, trying to look knowledgeable, replies, "Internet? I thought it was an intranet, so I didn't think it needed the internet." The IT guy, trying hard not to smile, responds, "Well, in that case, your intranet is just intra without the net." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.